with Project 2025. He just wants to dissolve all of these agencies under the executive branch of government, most terrifyingly, the Department of Justice, so then he can just indict anyone because he says that, oh, Joe Biden is doing that to me, so I can do it to all of them. Whereas, no, he stole hundreds of classified documents. The National Archives tried to get it back from him politely for over a year. He just refused. He moved around the boxes, put them in his bathroom because he is an insurrectionist and he violates basically every law known to man. And he's not loyal to the United States. He's loyal to himself and his own ego. That's why he tried to overturn the election after losing by 7 million votes, which is why he's now facing two different indictments, one in Georgia and one federally. Today we're going to be looking at the other side of the aisle from the flip side, which is an organization that will send you emails every weekday going over a political issue and going over both sides of the political spectrum. I'm very much on the left, but we are going to be reading this part that says, ask a conservative, what good has Trump done? How do you overlook Trump's behavior? From Terry. Trump enacted many policies that conservatives support. First and most obviously, he appointed the judges that overturned Roe v. Wade. This has been the primary goal of the social conservative movement for the last 5 decades. Other Republicans offered lip service opposition Other Republicans offered lip service opposition to abortion, but failed to actually do anything about it. Roe was repeatedly affirmed by Supreme Court with a majority of Republican-appointed justices. Trump delivered. Well, yeah, the reason why all these Republican judges, didn't overturn Roe v. Wade is I think they had enough sense that if you overturn Roe, you're basically letting the states do whatever the fuck they want with it, and they're going to pass extreme fucking abortion bans without exceptions for rape and incest, which is the case in many states now. Many, deep Republican states, even not even such deep red states like Texas. Democrats are winning elections based on this, and I'm glad that you put that in the first fucking part because you show how extreme you are. People will say, oh, well, it was just given back to the states. Well, I mean, I guess you could say that is true, but you're giving it back to a bunch of just disgusting right-wing echo chamber states who, even if they are a majority conservative, they completely gerrymandered all of their state legislative districts, who then gerrymandered the congressional districts, but that's a different story. So they have this right-wing echo chamber and they can pass whatever fucking abortion restrictions they want, just like in Utah, which is the state I live in, where they are trying to ban abortion full stop. I believe that that law is still caught up in court right now, and I hope it either stays that way or somehow. I just really hope the federal government could eventually intervene and just codify abortion rights, which they tried to in the Democratic House back in 2022. They codified abortion rights through the Women's Health Protection Act. But the fact is, in the Senate, Joe Manchin and I believe and every single Republican voted against. That would have been enacted into law if the Senate didn't do that. And the fact is that for things like abortion, you would need 60 votes to override the filibuster unless the majority of the Senate would set aside the filibuster. Oh, it's so controversial. We want minority rule. We want, 41 senators to be able to obstruct massively popular legislation if, they didn't call for cloture, which is basically end the filibuster, which is basically when no um, um, legislation can be pushed for, I believe, unless it is under the budget reconciliation process. No legislation can be pushed forward unless, 60 votes are there to end cloture or to end the filibuster if a filibuster is in place to stop a bill, which is basically what happens all the fucking time. Um, but the fact is, people will say, oh, well, Roe v. Wade was overturned under Biden, so why should we vote for Biden? You think that Biden just has unilateral control over all this? You think Biden appointed the Supreme Court justices who overturned Roe v. Wade? No, that was Trump. And Biden assigned executive orders to protect abortion access and contraception access. And things like that, and to travel to get an abortion. And if you're in the military, you can, travel to get an abortion, which is the reason why Tommy Tuberville from Alabama, he it was just, and is obstructing military appointments, disarming our military, and harming and putting our national security at risk. Just because of his, anti-woman, anti-reproductive health care stances. It's absolutely fucking disgusting. And then they go on. Operation Warp Speed produced COVID vaccines in record time to tame the pandemic. Yeah, the pandemic, which Donald Trump completely underplayed. He told Bob Woodward, I believe this was in February of 2020, which was a month where I think he did next to nothing. I think there was a travel ban from China, not a travel ban from Europe and all these other places until way, later. He was way too sluggish as far as that went. He completely downplayed it. He said it was just like the flu. He even had a bunch of rallies and he didn't advocate for people wearing masks and even said that it looked stupid and criticized Joe Biden for wearing masks during the election. And I think it was around like several hundred people did end up dying from that. And there were studies that showed, yeah, people died just from going to his rallies. I mean, they were Trump supporters, but still, I'm not gonna. Uh, I've said enough canceling things. Oh, yeah, kill me. The USMCA improved upon NAFTA to protect American workers. The stock market hit record highs, while unemployment rates for African Americans, Hispanic Americans, Asian Americans, Native Americans, veterans, individuals with disabilities, and those without a high school diploma all hit record lows pre pandemic. Yeah, pre pandemic, because then you destroyed the economy. And the fact is, Donald Trump really has no. Um, he does not deserve any of the credit for his economy before the pandemic because it was just a continuation of Obama's economy. You can look at all of these graphs, all of these statistics. Basically, every single metric is just a upward climb. It wasn't anything dramatic and nothing like how we've seen under Biden with almost 14 million jobs created. People will say, oh, that's people coming back from COVID. Well, Moody's and the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities, well, they showed, and this was back in February 24th of 2022, so the benefits have probably, even gone up since then. It showed that the American Rescue Plan, which was the COVID stimulus relief bill and other relief measures implemented by the Biden administration, resulted in historic GDP growth, job creation, health insurance enrollment, and poverty alleviation. These reports found that the AARP and the expended child tax credit created 4 million additional jobs, averted risk of double dip recession, lowered unemployment by 2 percentage points, nearly doubled GDP growth to 5.7% instead of 3%, while only contributing 0.35% to inflation, increased health insurance enrollment by 4.2 million, and kept 3.7 million children out of poverty in December, likely driving child poverty to record lows, which was slashed in half in 2021. So, the fact is, uh, Biden did all of these, amazing things for the economy. Obviously the from the American Rescue Plan, there was also the small business loans that kept businesses open during the pandemic, so that people could actually go back to work. That was a huge contributor for the jobs coming back and the resources for the states to get people vaccinated. That's why the entire economy could reopen safely. So yeah. There's really no other way to go about it. Biden contributed to the record jobs and the record fast, coming back from the economy. And I'm not just saying this because I'm a Democrat. Even the Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, he said back um, with the 2009 Recovery Act, which was pushed by Obama, and Obama had like a much larger majority in the Senate and House than Biden did in 2021. But Barack Obama passed like what? Like I think it was like 900 billion. Joe Biden's COVID relief bill was 1.9 trillion. Um, so, and that was shown with how slow the economy recovered under Obama. That was one of his biggest vulnerabilities going into the 2012 election. You can see how the economy looks right now, in 2023, and it's absolutely amazing all that's been done. And I'm not saying that, oh, there's not anything to be done. Obviously, people point to inflation. Inflation is down to 3.2%, and that wasn't caused by Biden. People will say, and economists agree that at most half or even less of the inflation in America was created by Biden, because, back, it's a little bit different now and more complex with the war in Ukraine, that disrupted supply chain issues. There's other issues in Europe that makes their inflation is actually worse than it is here in America. But at the time, the inflation in America was actually a bit worse under Biden than it was in European countries. And That partly is because there was such this huge push for stimulus. There was $1,400 put in the pockets of ordinary Americans. Stuff like that wasn't done to that extent in Europe, and that's why there was a little bit more inflation. But you can look at Europe now, and they're dealing with unemployment. And of the G7 nations, the United States had the best recovery. So overall, the ARP can be defended because it contributed to a larger economic recovery. Yes, inflation was a pain in the ass, but now it's down to 3.2% from the 9.1% high in June of 2022. Um, so yeah, I mean, I think it can be defended from that basis alone. Um, so yeah, Biden's economy, a lot of that can be, um, he can be given credit for that, but Trump's economy, no, basically nothing can be attributed to him because his tax cuts primarily benefited very rich, very fucking corrupt people, which is all he cares about, which is also why he doesn't care about the environment and wants to deregulate it, because he wants big businesses to be able to dump things like, mercury and all these toxic heavy metals in the water and everything. That's why he gutted the Clean Air and Water Acts, which Biden restored. Um, and all these kinds of things. And when you blame Biden for these high prices, you're also giving cover to corporate greed, because a lot of these, companies, not only do they basically they basically heighten prices under the cover of inflation because, oh, they know that you will blame Biden. They know that you will blame the US president. They know that, oh, you're not going to blame me. And they know that Joe Biden instated a 15% minimum tax on corporations so that they can no longer pay nothing in taxes. And they know that Donald Trump doesn't support that. They know that Donald Trump has their back. They know that Donald Trump loves them and wants to, loves them just like he loves the January 6th insurrectionists. And they know that he's going to just pat them on the back. Oh, good boy, keep making all this money while I convince my followers I'm an outsider who sticks up for the middle class. No, he doesn't. And he hasn't all his life. He's a fucking, what, billionaire? If that, even now after being sued so many times because he's such a corrupt criminal. Um, it's like, come on, like I could go on all day about how corrupt and disgusting Trump is, yet people will still fucking vote for him because they're stupid and they were infected with brain rot from Fox News and right-wing accounts using funk music and Joe Rogan and all these idiots to try to make Trump look good because they love Trump and they want to suck his 2-inch dick. So, on foreign policy, the Abraham Accords improved relations between Israel and Arab states. Trump also oversaw, I was reading that as if Trump also oversaw the defeat of ISIS and weakened Iran through the killing of a Qassam Soleimani. Oh, Qassam Soleimani. Well, have you ever heard of Ayman al-Zawahiri, who was one of the architects behind 9/11, the leader of Al Qaeda, who Joe Biden authorized the airstrike to kill without even having any civilian casualties, without even harming his members of his family in the house? Um, you know, they'll give Donald Trump for all these things, yet they don't even know about some of the shit Biden did because the media doesn't report on it as much as they should. And for whatever, well, obviously I know what reason, they just don't want to give Biden any credit. A major instigator of terrorism across the region. The Trump administration provided Ukraine with lethal weaponry, a decision that the Obama administration had refused to take. Former Secretary of Defense Robert Gates, who served in both the Bush and Obama administrations, stated that Trump's sanctions on Russia were the toughest of any administration, and the Biden administration has largely continued its predecessor's tough actions on China, including maintaining tariffs. Oh, okay, so at least they say that Biden is tough on China. And Trump sanctions on Russia were the, yeah, right. So with Ukraine, um, part of it is he said, oh, well, if I was president when Russia launched the invasion into Ukraine, oh yeah, they just wouldn't have done it, or they would stop immediately. No, Donald Trump would probably fork over Ukraine to Russia after talking to Vladimir Putin, who he thinks is very smart, who he has said is, very savvy, very cool. He's used these kind of terms to describe him, as well as Kim Jong-un, who is some radical, just crazy motherfucker. Doesn't he think he's like immortal or something, or he literally can't be killed? And they do all these nuclear testing. They try to threaten the world with nuclear Armageddon, as well as China, Xi Jinping, who is now president for life, and Donald Trump said we should try that in America. Yeah, he's not a wannabe dictator. Oh, my bad. It's just me and all the leftists saying he's a wannabe dictator. Um, so yeah, I mean, it's possible that Trump would say, "Oh yeah, well, with Ukraine, maybe he would support them." But the fact is, he wanted Zelensky to dig up dirt on Joe and Hunter Biden, and he got impeached over that. So, and then Zelensky obviously was in lockstep with Biden. He thanks Biden for all of the, funding he's given to Ukraine. So maybe Donald Trump, because of that, because he's so petty, he just wouldn't support Ukraine. I guess we'll have to see if, oh yeah, Joe Biden is losing in all these swing states, somehow winning in Wisconsin, even though that was what he won by the least by in 2020. Yeah, something's going wrong with those polls. At the least, as far as like the Midwestern states, they had him losing like Georgia and Arizona, and then there was like Pennsylvania and Michigan, which he was losing when he won Michigan and Pennsylvania by more than he won Wisconsin in 2020. I think those polls are wrong, and I think Biden will actually end up defeating Trump. Um, because I think the Biden coalition is an anti-Trump coalition, and what inspires that coalition? Trump. And I think as we see the with Project 2025, which needs to be shouted from the rooftops, I talked about it in my other video how he just wants to dissolve all of these other agencies under the executive branch of government, most terrifyingly, the Department of Justice, so then he can just indict anyone because he says that, oh, Joe Biden is doing that to me, so I can do it to all of them. Whereas, no, he stole hundreds of classified documents. The National Archives tried to get it back from him politely for over a year. He just refused. He moved around the boxes, put them in his bathroom because he is an insurrectionist and he violates basically every law known to man. And he's not loyal to the United States. He's loyal to himself and his own ego. That's why he tried to overturn the election after losing by 7 million votes, which is why he did that and why he's now facing two different indictments, one in Georgia and one federally. One of our contributors adds Trump's record as president from reinvigorating the economy. Yeah, right. To strengthening the border, to taking the fight to ISIS, or from the construction of the American embassy in Jerusalem to renegotiating trade policy to nominating constitutionally minded yeah, constitutionally minded Supreme Court justices who overturned Roe v. Wade, which made possible complete abortion bans, making a 10-year-old girl in Ohio travel across state lines to Indiana to get a fucking abortion. Oh yeah, that's so constitutional. I'm sure the founding fathers would have wanted a 10-year-old girl to travel across state. I mean, who knows? They might have. Most of them were in favor of slavery. Thomas Jefferson obviously famously wrote anti, the European slave trade parts of that. But it's like, so if the founding fathers say that the sky is green, should we go along with that? No. But the fact is, the soul of America, the core of America, is egalitarianism. That's why they say all men, or it has evolved to mean all valuable beings, because it didn't include black people at first. It didn't include Native Americans at first, who they didn't even really consider people. I think they considered them other, and they would call them savages and all these sorts of things. Women, all of these kinds of groups, they didn't uh, consider under the whole everyone has inherent value, everyone has the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. um that is the principle and the goal of America, and every generation has just increased and increased and increased the circle of compassion. And I would argue that should include animals, because all sentient beings deserve to be protected from unjust, torture, mutilation, murder, any sort of enslavement and restriction of their freedom. But now Donald Trump and all these Republicans, they just want to exclude people from this. And it's absolutely disgusting. To the promotion of traditional American values. Yeah, traditional American values such as cheating on your wife and paying off a porn star named Stormy Daniels and writing it off as a business expense, which got your ass indicted. Faith, and yet we don't know how faithful Donald Trump is. For all we know, he's an atheist, which I am, so I'm not trying to blame him for that, but nonetheless, he's the total grifter. Family. Oh yeah, family. Where's Melania? Where's his daughter who didn't even believe his fucking lies about the election? She's on tape from the January 6th committee, saying that she agrees with his, at the time, Attorney General Bill Barr, who didn't believe in the fucking lies about the election. And she believed him. She didn't believe in those fucking lies. Yet all you motherfuckers believe in Trump because he's your daddy and he's more of your daddy than hers. He said that he wants to date his own fucking daughter, and yet he's more your daddy than he is hers. As well as renewed love of country and patriotism. Yeah, nothing says patriotism like smashing cops in the doors in the United States Capitol. And there's a video of that, of this guy, of this Capitol police officer being literally crushed in the door, and he's screaming, and they rip off his mask. Multiple police officers committed suicide after that day because of just what they had to witness and go through. It's absolutely disgusting what happened. Um, and it made Donald Trump strikingly different to those on the left who wrongly say that America was racist and corrupt from the very beginning. Oh, it wasn't racist and corrupt from the very beginning. Why did they have slaves, you fucking idiot? Yeah, they had slaves. It sounds like they were racist and corrupt from the very beginning, among other things. What they did to women, what they did to Native Americans, what they did, how, uh, you know, um, just all these fucking horrible things that are of our history. They want to just erase that. And then they say that we want to not teach real history. No, you want to teach not real history because you don't want to face up to the atrocities of the past, because you want to, reinvigorate and prolong white supremacy in this country. They don't want other people to have a fair shake. They don't want other people to, have an ability to come up in the world. They just want their own power for themselves, and they don't care about anyone else. They just care about mostly white people and black people who will suck up to them and kiss their nutsack, and Latinos who will do the same thing, and all these other people who they just indoctrinate, or who know that what they're saying is bullshit, and they just kind of go along with it for fame, power, a spot in the administration, even though I don't know how many spots there will be after Project 2025, because they're just going to destroy all the departments and have it be Donald Trump's rule. Um, and then Americans must acknowledge their collective guilt and flagellate themselves in various ways, thereby dividing rather than uniting Americans. Yeah, right. Biden has created a federal government with racial equity czars. Oh, so bad. They want racial equity, equity action plans that illegally attempts, you don't want to talk about illegally if you're a fucking Trump supporter, illegally attempts to disperse funding based on race. He promised a return to normalcy. Instead, Americans have gotten lectures about how America is racist, why biological males must be allowed to play women's sports. Oh my God, the biggest issue ever. Males allowed to play in women's sports? What the fuck? Oh my God, this is just the hugest issue. I care so much about women's sports. It's like, come on, man. For example, I think that something is unfair in MMA that often happens, which is where they have people get matched up based on weight, right? And there's this YouTube channel I watch sometimes called Street Beefs, and there's this guy on there, his name is Baby Hulk, and there's a reason why he's called that, because he looks like Baby Hulk. He's big muscularly, but he's small, he's very short. And then they face him against these tall, lanky white dudes, usually, who are of the same weight as him because they're so fucking tall, yet they inevitably lose every single fight they have with him because they're not nearly as strong as him. Yeah, no fucking duh. I almost said they're gonna die. They're gonna lose to him, okay? Because they're not strong enough. Why don't you put him up against someone who is of the same strength class? Oh, well, that would just be too fair, I guess. Um, yeah, so but that being said, do I think there should be a law made that says, oh, well, super tall, lanky guys can't be fighting these, short, muscly guys, so we're going to make it illegal for you to basically match people up like this and make these restrictions in sports? No. And matter of fact, people say, oh, yeah, Democrats are so for, big government and that sort of thing. Okay. So. You can say that all you want. That's not true. We don't want government involvement in abortion. We don't want government involvement as far as contraception and who you can marry, which they want to, strip away. And part of Project 2025 is attacking the LGBTQ community and instating traditional American values because they're so obsessed with women being pregnant and having babies and being chained to them, not out of their own will, but out of manipulation and coercion. They don't want women to make those choices on their own because they don't think they would with them. they're very insecure about themselves, all these right-wing conservative men. So they just want to force women into, living up to their worldview and their unfounded religion that is not based on any facts. It's based on faith, which is literally belief without reason, belief without evidence. Um, and that's what they want to do, okay? And they want government involvement in so many parts of your life. They want, for example, the North Carolina lawsuit that luckily even the right-wing Supreme Court, I think enough of them sided with the Democrats or the liberals on the Supreme Court to strike down this lawsuit. And guess what this lawsuit said? It advocated for an independent state legislature theory. And what that means is if a state voted to elect, for example, Joe Biden in 2024, and the Supreme Court ruled yes on this on this case, well, if the state legislature is gerrymandered, well, they could just pick whatever candidate they want. They could pick Trump, and then he will be elected. Think about that. You don't get to actually pick who your fucking elected official is. And I know I said all that shit about the Electoral College. Well, that's a little bit of a different story because Donald Trump is a threat to democracy, and he is, I think when you took look at the actual interests of sentient beings, he is absolutely against those embedded interests within us. We don't get to choose what's painful. We don't get to choose what's pleasurable. We only think we do, okay? And the fact is, with Trump, he increases the likelihood of nuclear Armageddon because that's what his childish mind would jump to in foreign policy meetings, just nuking countries. And in the second term, and especially with Project 2025, having the ability of being a dictator, he won't care about being reelected. He won't even care about being blown up because he'll probably be such a narcissist he doesn't think he can die. Okay, that's really as much of a narcissist as I think he is. I think that he truly, I wouldn't be surprised if he thinks that. Um, and it's just absolutely atrocious. And the right wingers, they put that case up because they wanted to be able to take away your vote, and they want the government to choose the government, basically. What do you call that? Put in the comment section. And yeah, if you'd like to see more political content from me, make sure to watch this video and make sure to stick up for our democracy, guys. Keep watching these videos and vote for Joe Biden in 2024.